Honk. What's up, Cobra Kai fans? What you noticed that, John? Welcome back
great.
to Cobra Kai Nation. Hope you're all having a great day. My guest today is John Levine, who played the Health Inspector Keith from Cobra Kai Season 1, Episode 2, and he's also appearing in the Loki series, which we will talk about later on. John, it's awesome to have you on the show, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
For sure. We were just geeking out a little bit just now, just talking a little bit about Marvel. But of course, we're going to get really deep into that. But first of all, before Cobra Kai, before Marvel, of course, there was that journey you had as becoming an actor. So I'd like to touch a little bit upon that. So what was it like when you first realized, or the moment you first realized you wanted to be an actor?
Interestingly enough, there wasn't a moment of realization. It was when I was about 5 years old. My parents had a friend that was an agent who had come over for dinner one night, and I was just kind of running around as a 5-year-old, and she had mentioned to them, she was like, he's really expressive, and he's really, he's got a sort of a kind of personality to him, even at 5. You should get him involved in TV commercials, and kind of snowballed from there. And I started doing some TV commercials, national TV commercials. I lived in New York at the time, so it was like big stuff was shooting there. And I did that from like 5, 6, 7 years old, and I didn't realize, because I was a kid, how much of an impression that made on me, just being in that environment, being in front of the camera, doing the things. And then my family moved from New York to Florida, and stopped doing that. But I had always stayed around the performative space. So I did radio. My high school had a radio station, so I became a disc jockey. I started doing TV news because I was in front of the camera. I started, like things like that. It was always something around that. And then as I got a little bit older, I was kind of like, you know what, there's something missing. Like I just want, there's something that's not there. And I started doing stand-up comedy, and loved doing that. And that was a blast, and did that for about a year before I was like, you know what, I want to get into acting. And once I did that and started to, take some classes and book stuff, and, I started booking some commercials. I was like, this is it. It was there all along from when I was a kid, and I've been looking for that feeling. I just didn't realize it, and that's what it was. So it took me a while to get from 7 years old back to 41 years old before I got back into it. But I did, and I've been very fortunate, just with the fact that, I've been doing this for a little less than 6 years now, or actually, excuse me, a little less than 7 years, and I've been so lucky in what I've been able to do, and the opportunities that I've had, and just, frankly, just being able to get an agent initially in this town, is a big struggle. And I was able to get one, and a great one, who got me involved in Cobra Kai, and then, obviously onto the other stuff that I've done. And so I've certainly been fortunate, and that's sort of my journey. And I'm always just trying to get better and do as much as I can,
For sure, and that's great. That's a really cool little story there, and I always love hearing the backstory to someone that's gone on a journey like this, because it's essentially you always have like a cool story. And what you were saying with the agent stuff, like that must be, it really must affect the way you feel as an actor once you you get an agent and you really start taking it more seriously. Would you say that being an actor, you kind of it's a really fun experience that you take? Obviously it's a job as well, you take it really seriously, or do you feel like it's like it's a passion that kind of started from nothing and just kind of it's gone into where it is now?
Passion is a great word to use, because you can't do this for money. And I don't mean like you can't make a living at it. I mean, to get, when you want to do this, when you want to be an actor, you can't get into this world and be like, oh, I'm going to do this because I want to make money at it. It doesn't work that way. You have to do this because you love it.
Right.
Because for a long time, you're not going to make any money at it. And even when you start to book stuff, it's the money is great when you're working. It's the matter of getting the work. So
Mm.
you might work 2 days and it's oh my God, I can't believe they paid me this much for 2 days, but those are the only 2 days you're going to work for the year. So you have to do it because you love to do it and because you have that passion for it. So um, but it's certainly, look, yes, it's a job, but it's something that I absolutely geek out on, even when I'm not on camera. Just being on set and watching
Yeah.
everything, watching them do everything, and watching everybody. Everybody on set has a very specific job, and everybody needs to do that job, to the best of their ability. At when they say go, when they say action, everything's got to come together. It has
Mm.
to. Like the lights have to be in the right place. The wardrobe's got to be the makeup, the stunt, because it's that moment, and they got to capture that moment. And if somebody does something wrong, if somebody doesn't, the timing is off, it's not going to work, and you got to do it all over again. And I just find it so fascinating. And then you get to, from my perspective, I get to see all that, and then I get to watch the finished product and see how they put it all together and how they edited it, and it really, it's such a cool thing. And a lot of times, when I'm doing it, I'm like, I can't believe I get paid for this. Like, I honestly,
Yeah.
it's just, I don't tell anybody, but I would do it for free. It's but but it is, it's such a passion of mine. And getting to, I get to play pretend. I mean, I get to play pretend like I'm a kid. I get to be somebody
Right.
else for a little while, and I get to wear different clothes and do different things that I would never do myself, and be in situations I would never be in. And, so it's really cool.
For sure, yeah. There must be a lot of, like you said, like geeking out, just even the slightest thing. It could be someone you're working with, or you've noticed something, you're like, wow, I remember watching this show. And, touching on even like the Karate Kid and Cobra Kai, it's like just being involved in that must have been, wow, I'm part of the Karate Kid universe. I mean, of course, you
Oh,
must have grown up with that as well. And to touch upon that as well, like, did you, when you first obviously did your audition for your character, did you know the series? Were you told the series was going to be about Karate Kid, or was that kind of just you discovered that as you did it?
yeah, no, they weren't too secretive about the series. So I mean, it was titled Cobra Kai, like when they did the auditions. So
Mm.
so and it was a pretty big deal in town, like when they were doing it. So people in the industry knew what was going on, and had an idea. Didn't obviously know the full extent of the
Yeah.
story, but just knew the basis of it. So I did know that. Now, I don't know if it affected the character per se. I mean, that's more on a scene basis, and you kind of read the scene, read the description of the character that the writer had in mind, and then try and sort of gain some clues about, okay, where does this person fit in
Yeah.
to what's going on in the scene. This guy is the complete opposite of Johnny. He's
Yeah.
he likes he's like kind of sticking it to Johnny, because he can.
Yeah.
Johnny's a physical guy, and this guy's just like, no, I'm going to beat you with paperwork, type thing. And he's he's playing it, just real, kind of patronizing, and just kind of putting him down and kind of trying to put him in his place, and then you've got the funny at the end, when he mispronounces the name and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of read that stuff, and you go, okay, this is a funny scene. That's what this guy is there to relieve a little bit of tension, to kind of break things up a little bit, to add some comedy to the scene, and to set the stage of like, wow, Johnny's in this situation that he's got to do all of
Yeah.
these things. He can't just open up this dojo and go. He's got a lot of problems on his plate. So.
For sure. I love the yeah, I love that scene with you, and of course Miguel was there, Sholo, and
Mhm.
then yeah, Johnny, William Zabka. That must have been such a cool experience for yourself. And yeah, when you said Cobra K, that was brilliant. Like, just was that improv, or again was that just you were
No, that was
all part of the
that
script?
scene. Yeah, they have great writers on that show, and everything in that scene was scripted. Um, but it's not just the words on the page. You know what I mean? So like, I think to me, my favorite part of that scene is the no. Is when kind of comes over and smacks me, and gives me that, looking to get in shape and kick some ass, and
Yeah.
just the look down and the pause and the no, it just said no in the script. I mean, that's it. It didn't say he looks down, he pauses it. There was none of that. It was just, and it just kind of felt like I was like thinking to myself, who the hell is this guy? No, you
Yeah.
know, and I think that really kind of sold it of like who this guy is right off the bat. And
Right.
so as an actor, you got to take, okay, just the word no, and then put it all in context and figure out, okay, how would this guy say it? Like what would this guy be feeling if that, guy who he thinks is kind of a douche walked over to him and was like, hey, how about you lose some weight, buddy? You know.
Yeah.
So
It was a really good scene, and yeah, I just love, again, like you said, couldn't have said it better. It just straight away tells you what Johnny's like. Does not care who's in front of him; he'll just say whatever it is. And that
right.
experience, yeah. So, what was it like meeting Zabka for the first time? Because that, I mean, seeing him in the Karate Kid as that young kid who
Yeah.
bullied Daniel LaRusso, and then seeing him as this middle-aged version of the character and seeing Zabka, that must have been huge. How are you feeling when you first met him?
It was pretty amazing. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm 47 years old. I remember going to see The Karate Kid in the theater with my brother and my mother in 1984. I could tell you exactly, the theater we went to and all that kind of stuff. And it was part of my childhood. I mean, it literally was a big part of my childhood. Um, so going to booking this role and saying, okay, now all of a sudden I'm part of the Karate Kid universe, was just I don't even know how to explain it. It's like almost unbelievable,
Yeah.
just going from being a kid at 11 years old, and now all of a sudden I'm a grown person, and it's kind of come together. And I get to meet a guy that and not even just. I mean, I don't know how old you are. You look a little bit younger than I am, or I should say a lot younger than I am. But
I'm 21.
how old are you?
21.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're much younger. But Billy Zabka was in a ton of movies in the '80s, not just Karate Kid. I mean, he was in
Hmm.
Vacation, and he was in Back to School, and he was he played a whole bunch of different roles. So I mean, a lot of movies that I watched growing up, he was in. So I grew up with him, and so there was that, just the whole. He was a part of my childhood, so it was incredible to meet him in person, and he was a super awesome guy, very friendly, and he's an executive producer on the show, so I got to
Yeah.
watch him work behind the scenes and the discussions he was having on how he thinks things should be going and what the character would be doing and we're not doing, and so it really was a treat to be a part of that, and to obviously interact with and work with alongside with someone that I had like I said, grown up with.
Could you imagine if someone came through a portal and told you in about 34 or 33 years later, you were going to be in a scene with Johnny Lawrence and he's going to tap you on the belly and say, "Do you want to lose your gut?" Would you have believed that person?
Not even in the slightest. Not even in the slightest. I mean, it's such a, and that's what I said. I when I called my dad and told him about this, he was like,
Yeah.
"That's just like incredible." Like kind of just going back, and I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm telling you, this is just it's like an unreal experience, and I joke around and I say, well, okay, so I'm in the Karate Kid universe. I'm now in the Marvel universe. I said, if you
Right.
add in Star Wars or Indiana Jones, you pretty much locked up my childhood. That's pretty much it."
Yeah, which is super cool. And yeah, I mean that whole scene really makes me think about if your character was in a dojo, I would be curious which dojo he'd be in. But as yourself, not your character, which dojo would you see yourself in if you were doing karate?
Wow, that's a really good question. Um, hmm. As myself,
Yeah,
I would probably say Miyagi Do. I would probably say I'm more of a I guess a nicer guy than
you've
a
got that
Cobra Kai.
zen. You
Yeah,
got that
yeah, I think
zen.
yeah, I don't have that kind of like aggressive, like a Cobra. So I would probably, that's the where I would go with that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and you're just that scene pretty much. It's almost like how a cobra would interact with a Miyagi-Do student. And kind of like, what's your problem? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
exactly how Miyagi-Do would react. So yeah. Um, so let's talk a little bit about who inspired you when it came to acting, because I know you said about your journey and kind of how it went from being that 5-year-old to where you are now, and over the several years you've been doing this great work. And yeah, like what kind of who in the industry kind of was a role model to you or you looked up to?
I mean, I grew up, so my parents actually owned a video store when I was growing up.
Oh,
So a
awesome.
video rental store. This was pre-Blockbuster days. So
Wow.
so we had a local video store that I used to work at when I was in high school. And we had a TV, and a big TV, no flat screens back then. It was like a big TV, big fat heavy TV that we played movies on, during the day and at night when the store was open. So I mean, I would just sit there and watch movies. I mean, I'd probably watch four movies a night. I'd have just on and watching them. So, I mean, when I was growing up, the people that I watched and admired, the Al Pacinos of the world, the Robert De Niro's, the Ned Beatty, Warren Beatty, um, Richard Gere. I'm trying to think of all the people I saw, and then you get into um, a little bit later in life, the Daniel Day-Lewis. Like I'm a huge Daniel Day-Lewis fan. I think he's wonderful. Tom Hanks. Those
Oh,
are all people that I'm an actor, as an actor and as a fan. I like actors who you don't see them in the role. You see
right.
the character, and because and to be honest, Al Pacino nowadays, he's more of a character than he, when back when he played the Michael Corleone and
Oh, yeah.
Tony Montana. That you only saw the character. Now it's kind of like you see Al Pacino a little bit more because he's older and he's just kind of, he's doing his thing. But you watch like Tom Hanks in the movie Big. I mean, you never see Tom Hanks. You see a 12-year-old kid the whole movie. I mean, it's amazing. It's so those have always been big influences in my life, and especially when it comes to acting.
For sure. Tom Hanks is someone, even just me growing up, obviously he had an influence in Toy Story.
Mm,
Forrest Gump was something I watched when I was a kid. And yeah, just again, these kind of actors who can sort of be someone else entirely
yeah,
and then just go from being themselves to that difference. It's such a skill. It's amazing. And all the things that come with it, it's like, it's something really special for sure. And I do like that as well. I do like someone that can just be the characters, just them, but it really does make it more interesting when they're really going against who they actually are. Because it's like, yeah, you're
yeah,
seeing what they aren't. So that really pries into their skill and what they can deliver on screen, which is you've seen all these fantastic roles and iconic scenes and just the way it's come across. Um, and of course, like as you were saying, there's a lot of iconic roles and inspirations in the Marvel universe. And as you
sure.
said, you were in The Gifted, and
Mhm.
then now Loki. But as you were geeking out before, just tell me, how does it feel to finally be part of the MCU?
I mean, not even just finally be a part, just to be a part of it. I mean, it's not, it's really, I mean, it's such an incredible thing. Like I said, sometimes it's just unbelievable to me to think that I get to do this, and especially to do it in something as huge as the MCU. I mean, we were talking about before. I grew up reading Marvel comics. I was a Punisher fan. I was a fan of Spider-Man. I was a fan of the Avengers and the X-Men, and that's what I did. Read as a kid, and you know, to now be a part of that, to be a part of the canon. This is something that somebody 50 years from now is going to look back 100 years from now and read about, how this started. I'm a part of that lore. And it's really, sometimes I just got to stop and just remind myself how great this is and how cool it is. And, hell, I got to work with Tom Hiddleston. It's like, I
Yeah.
mean, that's awesome. It was just really like, I don't know. I'm constantly blown away with the things that I get to do, and,
Right.
and are given the opportunity to do.
Yeah. So that Loki series. So that's you said we could talk a little bit about that scene. So
Sure.
you're essentially like a clerk. So I love the scene again. Very similar to the scene you had with Johnny in Cobra Kai, and it's that same sort of energy. You have the
Hmm.
every time Loki speaks, you put the pen and paper down. You got to authorize that. You got to authorize. I love that. That's so good the way they did it. And yeah, it was a nice surprise because I was just doing like a trailer reaction to it, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's John!" And I was like, "Oh yeah, Keith." So it was a really nice surprise there. And yeah, so what was it like doing that scene and just taking it in with Tom Hiddleston?
So you're right about the energy. You're right about that character. I'm starting to make a little bit of a living with that character. So the government, office drone, guy. Which, listen, I know I'm not being cast as the next Captain America. Which is, so get in where you fit in, as I like
Yeah,
to say. So
I like
I'm
that.
not certainly not complaining about those roles.
Yeah.
But like the director came to me. We were talking prior to shooting that scene, and she said, she's like, I just want to give you a note on like sort of what I said. Okay. She's like, you're a TSA agent at the end of your 15-hour shift. She's like, you've seen 800 people today, and this is the
Wow.
800. This is the 801st. That's the mindset. It's just like, okay, whatever, just like, go. Yeah, and it was a great note, and I think I embodied it. What she was looking for, and working with Tom was just, it was such a pleasure. I mean, he is really, like I said, Johnny was great. Billy Zabka was great. Very friendly. I shot a movie with Kelsey Grammer. He was super friendly. I mean, everybody I've worked with has been really great. Tom really took it to the next level. I mean, he was just such a friendly, warm, down to earth, humble person. The first day I was on set for 2 days, and the first day I was there, I was just sitting in my chair in my wardrobe. And he comes walking by with like a bunch of people, and he stops. He sees me in my wardrobe, and he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm Tom. Nice to meet you. We're working together today." And just even just a little gesture like that, normally, he smiled at me, I smiled at him, and, we nodded, and he walked. Great, okay, fine. We're just working together. We're actors working together. But just the fact that he stopped and introduced himself, and then when we got on set, just to watch, I was watching him work in a scene before, a different scene, and watching him work was fascinating. I mean, just the way he keeps himself loose and energetic, and how he's interacting with people around him, and he has fun with it. He enjoys it, and you can see it's that pure, true joy that he has, and it comes through in his character, and it comes through in his work, and it was really just absolutely incredible. And he we shot. So that scene, not to get too much into the weeds and the technicals, but it's a two single scene, right? So they put the camera over my shoulder and they shoot him,
Yeah.
and then they reverse everything and shoot me. And he so when they did so we shot him first, and then like, okay, we could turn everything around. They had to do something in between that took a little bit longer than normal. The director and the first AD came over to me. I was obviously off camera, and they said, hey, it's run a little bit long. Tom has to do this other scene, afterwards. He's got a big wardrobe and makeup change. Like, would you be okay working with a stand-in instead of Tom? And I said, yeah, like, of course. Like, well, what am I going to say? Like, no, I'm John Levine. I'm working. You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to do? Like, and they
Yeah.
were like, thank you for being so flexible. Like, we really appreciate it. And I said, yes, of course. Like, whatever you need. So fine. And they walk off, and I go back to, I'm reading something on my phone. 2 minutes later, Tom comes walking by. And he says, hey, I heard that I'm not working with you for your scene, for your single. And I said, yeah, I said, I know you got to shoot another thing. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, don't worry about it. And I totally expected him to be like, hey, I wish I could, but, I'm going to do this, or it was great working with you. And I'm telling you, he goes, no. That's not right. I'm fighting this. And he runs back to the director and he says, he was there for me. I got to be there for him. I'm going to go get changed. I'll be back. And he
What a
runs
legend.
off. I mean, runs on. I'm sitting there. I'm like speechless. I'm like, what the F just happened? You know what I mean? Like, did that just really
Yeah.
happen in real life? And he runs off. And 20 minutes later, I'm in first position getting ready. And he comes running up and jumps on set. And he's in a different wardrobe. And so they had to have his stunt double stand in front of him because they shot over his shoulder because they had the same wardrobe on.
Yeah.
And he's behind the stunt double doing the lines with me and doing the scene. And just, and it was just, and we were ad libbing and we were adding stuff, and it was funny, and the director was laughing, and it was just a really great. I mean, for him to do that was just an unbelievable gesture. And I said to him, even after we cut, I said, hey, I just looked at him, I said, man, thanks. That was really cool of you. That was really awesome. And he's like, hey, we got to stick together, man, thick as thieves. And I was like, yeah, like, we're just two actors working together, me and you, and it was like, and it was great. It was great. Something I'll never forget. It was probably the most inspiring day I've ever had on a set ever.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. That's amazing. That yeah, he went to director. No, I got to do this. I love that. Like, shows a lot of integrity, and also just the the gracefulness that he has. He's just a.
Absolutely.
I've heard many things about Tom Hiddleston, but this is something that is just set the bar so high for how great he is as a person, and that's so cool. And yeah, just it's awesome. It's just to see because he's so popular. He's so he could have easily said no.
He's the
Yeah,
star of the show, right? I mean, this is the star. I mean, the show's named after his character, you know.
yeah,
And listen, I understand how it works. I understand the timing of it. I understand, you know. So it's like it's not a big deal for me. If you know, okay, I got to shoot with a stand-in. Fine, I'll do it. You know, no big deal. And for him to say like, no, that's not right. Like you and I, you know, you were there for me when I was on camera, and you were working with me, and we were ad-libbing and doing stuff, and you know that kind of. So I got to be there for you. And you know, again, I was literally dumbfounded. I mean, I couldn't believe, you know, what he had done, and you know, and no hesitation. Like that was his normal reaction to this. Nope, that's not right. I'm taking care of this. You stay there. You know, I was like, okay.
that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. I mean, one thing I just thought of now is that if Loki was in the Cobra Kai series, which dojo do you think he would fit in well?
Oh, I think he might have his own dojo. I think
Probably, yeah. I
he
actually
probably
agree.
would, or he would be in both dojos. He'd be in two or three dojos, not telling the other one about, you know, he's playing
Yes.
both sides. Is I think what he'd be doing. He'd be a part of both of them.
Yeah, he'd probably just use his mischievous powers and just have him
Right.
be at the same place at the same time, and then yeah, it might catch up to
Right.
people. But that's
He'd show up as Kreese for one dojo, you know, because he shapeshifted to Kreese, and show up as Daniel-san in the other. I mean, you could, you know, you
yeah,
could do something like that.
that'd be pretty awesome. But I can imagine him even going into Cobra Kai and just stirring up trouble and creating all
Oh,
these problems. Like, would be
no doubt.
crazy. What do you like about the Loki character? Like, just seeing the journey that Tom Hiddleston has had with that character in the MCU.
I love that character. I think I loved it from the comic books, and I love the way Hiddleston plays it because I think it's just you know, I think he plays it to perfection. I mean, he's the god of mischief, and he's so untrustworthy that it's like endearing. Like you know, he's not on the level.
Mm.
And that's what makes it so interesting. And the way he played that in this, you know, the times when he would feign sincerity and then backstab somebody, or you know, turn into somebody else to get himself. I mean, it was just really, it's so interesting. And like I said, he's so funny. You know, Tom is, and his comedic timing is amazing. And you know, I think you even see it in the trailer when he's talking to Owen Wilson, and you know, I love that when he's like, you know, I'm very smart. And he's like, yeah, of course you are. And he's like, okay, okay. You know, I think I love that. I thought that was so funny. I watched that and I laughed every second. Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm dying to see the two of them together. I think that's
That dynamic, yeah,
yeah, that dynamic I think is going to be fantastic.
for sure. Did you get to meet Owen? I know
I did
maybe
not.
it's just
I did
okay.
not. Yeah, yeah. No, I worked. I'm actually in two episodes of Loki. I appear in a second episode with another character, but it wasn't Owen.
Okay,
kind
cool.
of going through my head about what I can say and what I can't say. But
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like,
I can
yeah,
say I appear in a second episode, but I can't say what I was doing.
of course, yeah. Marvel
Yeah.
again,
I was
tight
about to
with
say
all the
there's a knock
ropes.
there's a knock at my door. It's the Marvel lawyers. Hold on. Yeah.
The Marvel police are just like, John, we need to have
I
a
was going to say,
word.
right. It's a bunch of big dudes and Mickey Mouse ears that come to beat the hell out of me. So,
Maybe Loki himself goes, we need to have a chat.
we need, right, exactly. Tom shows up, John, love the story, but we got to have a chat.
Oh my god, that's insane. I'm so looking forward to that. As we were saying before, just the stuff with the timeline, like because Loki again has done what Loki does best, being that mischievous person and the god of
Yeah.
mischief. It says it all, and he's now created all these branch realities. So just even going by the trailer and what we see, because I know from the comic books there's different versions of Loki, and I think we even see the President Loki in that sequence. And yeah, I'm just so looking forward to this series. If you could describe your experience with filming Loki with like maybe one word, how would you describe it?
Awe-inspiring. That's kind of two words, but it's got a hyphen.
Mm.
So yeah, it just from several perspectives. One, you know, Disney put as much money into those Disney Plus shows as they do the movies. So
Mm.
seeing the sets that they built and, just the wardrobes and everything. I mean, it was, there was no expense spared. So I mean, just that was incredible. And then obviously awe-inspiring, just working, getting a chance to work with Tom, and everyone else that was, Kate, the director, and the first AD, and like everybody on set was really just super duper and so accommodating. And so, I'm always, I always get a little like uncomfortable when I'm on set because it's, they treat all the actors like they would treat the star. Like it doesn't matter if you have one line in it or if you have, they're always just like, what can we get you? And, I'll move your chair for you and do all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I can move my chair. You know what I mean? Like I don't, I'm fine if I want to give a bottle, and they're always like that. So I'm always like a little like, I'm not that guy. You know what I mean? I just, but you know, everyone's just so awesome and so cool and so accommodating and friendly, and we just had great conversations, and it was a really just a wonderful experience, one I'll never forget it. I mean, to be honest, I'll just
Of
something
course,
I don't
yeah.
care, I don't care where my career goes to. It's just something I'll never forget.
Sure, being that young kid reading Marvel comics to playing even
Yeah,
that role in the MCU with a character Loki that you also grew up with, that's
sure.
full
Yeah.
circle moment for sure. And I can only imagine how nerdy you must have felt in the moment, like I'm gonna be with Loki.
Oh my! I mean, totally. I mean, and like I've got a niece and a nephew, and or a few of them in there, and they're younger. They're in their to 11, 12, 13 years old range. So they're the hit of their school now because they've been showing the trailer, in school, and that's my uncle, that's my cousin, and so. Uh, so I mean, I'm getting all these messages from them. Can you take a selfie and send it to me because nobody believes that you're my uncle? You know what I mean? Like things like that. It's pretty funny. It's I think it's adorable, but it's again you can argue the MCU is the biggest thing in film, and has been for the last I mean kind of since it started really. So and now to be a part of that, I mean, there's no words.
For sure, yeah. It's just awesome because like I'm yeah, big Cobra Kai fan, absolutely loved the Karate Kid growing up. And then there was also Marvel, reading comics, seeing the MCU, even the Netflix Marvel series were great. And you were saying about Punisher, and I absolutely love John Bentl's Punisher. I think it's so textbook, so fascinating. It's such a great job of the character, and uh,
Yeah,
I I absolutely love I think him and Cap. I do like a lot of the Avengers. So it's kind of hard to just nitpick
sure.
and choose one, but I think probably Cap. Yeah, excuse me, and yeah, this must have been all as well. And then The Gifted as well. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so I mean that was really my first touch of Marvel because it's a Marvel property. It's not part of the MCU,
Yeah,
but yeah, that was a wonderful experience as well. I mean that was it was my first network TV credit, so that was exciting. I was going to be on a network station,
yeah,
and it was shot at the Tyler Perry Studios here in Atlanta. So that was my first experience on Tyler Perry's studios, which are just really just incredible what he's done here. I mean, right in the middle of the city. I mean, he bought half of an old army base and turned it into
wow,
I would argue even better than a Hollywood level studio. I mean, these brand new state of the art sound stages. Um, the location where we shot the scene that I was in that show is actually some of the old officers' quarters. He kept the houses and the administration buildings intact so that he could use those as sets, which was just a genius move because
yeah,
it's lived in. They didn't have to build anything. They've got everything they need right there. So that was just a great experience as well. And I was very, you have to be thankful for everything that you've done because it leads you to where you are. So it's like between the first thing that I've done to the last thing that I've done, it's all part of like sort of the same continuum. And you learn through everything. You just I watch scenes that I've done in the past, including Cobra Kai, and I'm like, there's parts where I'm like, oh, I could have done that a lot better. Like 3 years removed and having honed my craft more than I had at that point, I look at that and I'm like,
yeah.
it would have been better if I did it this way, or I could have put a little bit more emotion into that, or So you're always self-critical of the work that you do, but you have to also remember that it's what you're doing is getting you to where you are today. So
Right. And you want to build on that. You don't want to just kind of stay stagnated with
correct.
like, oh, I know it all. There's so much to learn, of course. And yeah, it's cool you said that because like now even in Loki, you're going to see that difference. And that just means you take a lot of pride in what you do. And of course, that's your passion.
Absolutely.
You don't want to just half-ass it. You really want to go for it. So that's just admirable. And yeah, for sure. You always have to take pride in something you love, right?
Agreed.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You scratch the surface and different perspectives of Marvel. That must have been really cool. So like, as you were coming up as an actor, did you or there must have been some sort of thought like, oh, would you like you ever hoped you would be in like a Marvel project?
You know, I can't say that like specifically. I don't think there's anything that I actually, I shouldn't say that. I mean, there are projects that I was like, oh, I'd love to work on that project just
Mm,
because of the actors that are in it, or it's a more like ongoing series and things like that. Or there are certain actors I would love to work with. So yes. I don't know if it was specifically the MCU, but and again, as just from a sort of acting perspective, that's an amazing credit to have on my resume. Just the because it's so well known. I mean, the same
mm,
thing with Cobra Kai. When I was on Cobra Kai, it was on YouTube,
mm.
and just didn't get as far as I'm concerned, didn't get the same recognition or get the recognition it deserved because it was
Right.
such a good show and it was kind of not as visible. And then when I went to Netflix, it blew up. I mean, it just it was the number one show on Netflix for weeks.
Yeah.
Um, and so many people started watching it and being like, "Wow, this show's amazing!" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's been amazing. Like,
Yeah.
it's finally getting the credit that it deserves." And it like from like I said, as from being an actor, it moved up, in my credits, because it's so well known, it's so big. People are like, oh, he was on Cobra Kai. Like, I know that show. That's a good show. Loki. That's a big production. You kind of take that into consideration. When you're looking for how's my career going to progress in the future. And then there's other things that you do that are smaller films, smaller short films, and because you love the character, you love the role. You do, what I mean? And not to say that I'm doing the MCU not because I don't love it. I do. It's not. I'm
Mm,
not saying it like that.
mm.
But there's certain things that you're not thinking. Okay, this is going to be a great thing for my career future. It's just I want to work on this project. I really like that director. I want to be a part of that. I really love the script and the writer. They wrote that. I love that. I want to work with them in the future when the next thing they do. So there's all kinds of different aspects of the business and kind of how it works and
Yeah,
what you're looking for.
I can understand you have to be like realistic about it, and also you have to be ambitious because again, it's this industry is very big. I mean, it's definitely tough. I can only imagine with the auditions you have to do, and you might not get some, and then you get some, and it's like, yeah, great, and it's very competitive. So I can just you got to really stay level headed and just staying focused. So props to you just to even stay in that groove, and being an actor is obviously not easy. A lot of people do it. It's a very big market.
Yeah.
And yeah, just landing even something in the MCU and also that fanboy, that 12-year-old, 5-year-old version of yourself comes out. You're like, I'm being part of something that I grew up with my childhood. Not that the MCU was around, but the fact is Marvel, kind of touches on that too. And yeah, it
Yeah.
must have been just awesome that you've got here. And of course, it's only going to get better. And I'm just so looking forward
Thank you.
to Loki in June. It's going to be awesome. And what we'll do now is take some quick fan questions.
Sure.
So we'll get one or two people in. So guys, yeah, now's your time to ask anything you want for John, Cobra Kai, Marvel related, within reason, just to put that out there. John cannot be talking so much about Loki. But yeah, that's so cool. It's a shame it got delayed another month because I know it was in May, then it moved to June, but I guess it's not too long away.
No, to be honest, I was supposed to shoot in March of 2020 and it
Wow.
got pushed. Yeah. And we did not end up shooting it until November of 2020. So,
Damn.
yeah.
I'm glad it didn't get delayed too much. Like it got
No,
done and
they kept it pretty much on schedule and then they really knocked it out. So they did a great job.
for sure. All right, we have a visitor. Hello, Sam. How are you doing?
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, nice to see you, Shaheen, again.
Yeah, what's your question for John?
My question is, what was it like with your scene, being able to do your scene with William Zabka?
It was really great. It's one that scene actually was shot as one big continuous scene. So it started with him and Sholo, and he was talking to him, the quiet, that whole thing, and throwing the thing up against the wall. But normally, or not normally, but a lot of times what you do is you'll shoot like a piece of that, and then they'll edit it together with another piece of it, and so you're not doing it all as one big piece. That whole scene, I was waiting outside for the whole beginning part of that scene. So when we did it, I mean, we did it, ran through it 4, 5, 6 times. They had to start at the very beginning and do the whole thing. And we did it all as one continuous, which I think really made it flow really well, because it was very real, because they were going through the whole thing, and then boom, I walk in the door, and, so it was a great experience just from a cinematic perspective, and really cool getting to work with William Zabka.
Great question, Sam. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
All right, take it easy. Okay, cool. We'll get another person in. Chosen Vader, what's up, man?
Sup?
How you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks.
Yeah,
All
pretty
right,
good.
I have a question. Which dojo would you be in?
Oh, John
I
answered this
thought-
earlier on.
Yeah. I think Miyagi-Do. Miyagi-Do would
Yeah,
would
Miyagi-Do is
be where-
the best dojo.
Well,
It really
there's some Cobra
depends.
Kais that I think would disagree with you there, but
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 3 different dojos, but like John said, Loki, if Loki was in the show, maybe he has a place for you. He has his own dojo.
you never know.
You
Yeah.
never know for sure. Yeah. Thank you for coming on, man.
No problems.
All right, cool. Well, that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much, John, for this opportunity. Awesome to talk to you about your experience with Cobra Kai, your acting experience, and just generally about Marvel, both geeking out about it. So, yeah, guys, thank you for coming on to the stream, tuning in, your questions, everything. Thank you so much for coming on, Cobra Kai Nation. Me and John are signing out, and I will see you guys next time on the channel.